did last Saturday?
Yeah, I think from an offensive standpoint, really much like, I think really all phases of the game, there was some detail and precision that lacked. Some ball security issues obviously cost us big moments. I thought we drove the ball really well, but it was the precision and detail to put points on the board and finish drives. And so that really hurt us, and obviously that's an area for us of continued concentration.
Going through the game notes, I was struck by one stat, which is in the last 5 games, Iowa's not turned the ball over once in this series. So I guess, A, how hard is that to do on their end? And B, how hard is that to overcome when they're playing that sound and not giving you those extra opportunities?
Well, I think that's the respect you have, honestly, for their program and how they win football games. They do such a great job of creating the tempo and pace of the game in their favor and then putting themselves at an advantage to win the football game at the end of the game. And I think on the flip side, when you've seen us play at our best, very similar. And so, you look at even our matchups against them, turning the ball over in some critical moments and critical times, have really hindered us. So it's a great stat, and to be honest with you, I think a telling stat of how they win, and I think when we've had great success, how we've won.
After being able to look at the film, how would you evaluate your offensive line's play on Saturday?
Yeah, I would say the word solid. I think that really protected well in the football game. From a run game standpoint, it was solid. I don't think any better or any worse than that. There were some times where some really positive things happened and other areas of the run scheme broke down. And then, and some other times, maybe it was one guy that was a hair off. But, I would say a solid performance, and I think exciting to watch that group just continue to grow. The positive is played a lot of guys in there, and a lot of competition continuing to happen at that position group.
Get some injury updates on Charlie, Sean, and Orion?
Yeah, who else? Was he hurt? Oh, dinged up going into the game the week before. Yeah, I think the biggest thing from our end, we feel really confident about where we are with all 3 of those guys. Orion, Charlie, both practiced on Monday, which was great in terms of what we did. In terms of Sean, I still think we're a little bit of week-to-week standpoint. I don't think it'll be this week, and I still think it'll be a little bit of time before we get Sean back.
When you're meeting or talking with fans, I imagine the bowl victories and all that you guys have accomplished is the first thing that comes up. But how quickly does things pivot to the record against Iowa in your 5 years here?
Yeah, I don't even know, because I don't know if that conversation is one that, we think about, and we don't think about the bowl victories, and we certainly don't think about, the losses. We do know that that's an area for us that, they've done a great job in the 4 games that we played against them. They've been some great games, but, certainly credit goes to them. But I don't think that conversation really has come up very much, either from all the bowl victories or some of the tough losses we've had.
We've mentioned about the turnovers in this series. I'm just curious, since you've been here, what have you learned about this rivalry? What has Iowa presented to you that you feel like has stayed the test of time?
I mean, it's as in any rivalry football game, I think one of the things is it means something, and I think there's always a higher level of energy. And to be honest with you, it's any rivalry game, and especially a game like this where the energy's high, it's who in the moment can fundamentally do their responsibility in detail. And, I think even look at us in this game at times, we have, played well, and yet in the moments, some of the critical moments, we haven't been able to execute, and they have, and that's been the difference in the game. But, I think it's certainly an incredible rivalry. It's a rivalry that you want to be a part of. It's why you come to college to play in games like this.
What have you seen from their secondary on film? Obviously, they had a big game last week.
Yeah, I think ball hawks really in terms of the secondary, they do a great job. Their defense allows them to have vision on the football. They're good athletes and can make plays on the ball. And so, they were able to do that last week and, tip balls in the air. They're able to make really good plays because the defense that they play allows them to have great vision on the ball. Go ahead, Randy. Go ahead.
Once this crazy world of college football straightens out in a few years, whatever that is, the realignment stuff, what happens if it does not include Cyhawk football? What are your thoughts if it would not on the happen chance?
Boy, that great question, honestly, Randy, and probably one I'm ill prepared to even think about, because I don't even think I've even put any thought into that, other than, man, as I've come here and been a part of this game, and certainly this rivalry game, it's really special, and it's special for the state. It's certainly special for both universities that play Division I football, and I think even when you talk about playing in the UNI game, I think it's really special. I think that's what makes this state really unique, that the families care, they have great respect for their universities, and it's meaningful when they get an opportunity to play against each other. So I think when I think of the global presentation of that question, I don't just think about, the Cy-Hawk game. I think about the UNI game. I think all those things, and I think you can tell the meaningfulness and the pageantry that kind of goes around it with all those games that get played.
Hey, Matt. When do you allow yourself even a moment to sort of look at all of this this week and sort of have a little pride of like, yeah, I had a feeling we could do this. A lot of people didn't think that everything, the big game day, all that was possible here. You allow yourself even a moment of pride saying like, yeah, I knew we could do this.
Yeah, I think what's been interesting over even last year, I think as you go through it, it's not easy to be done. We know that. We have to do it a little bit a very unique way. But I do think as you come to the stadium and you see, even last Saturday, you walk out to the field and you get this fan base back, and you see the skyline has changed here. It's just you take it in, and there's a great sense of appreciation, and yeah, there is a pride, I think, about being a Cyclone right now, and what we're about, and certainly what we have the ability to continue to do, and I think there is a great pride within our organization and certainly our program.
Matt, what's it mean to have College Game Day back for the second time in 3 years for this university, for this program, and for this game?
Yeah, again, I'd say, especially seeing that 2 years ago, it's great for our state. It's certainly great for our university to be able to showcase, what's going on here, some of the buildings, certainly what's been happening. Obviously, the game itself, I think it's great for. So I always think those things, having a national presence, man, what a huge positive for everybody involved.
What kind of challenges does Tyler Goodson present? I mean, just that entire Iowa offense, I guess.
Yeah, I think we know when you're going to play these guys, they're going to run the football, and I think Tyler has shown the ability to make big runs, great finisher of runs, had a big one early in the game last week. And, I think very similarly, great vision. What's great backs have? They got great vision, and he does have that. And, veteran offensive line, I think that offensive line, especially with Linderbaum in the middle, really allows them to do what they do best, and that's really create movement up on the line of scrimmage and create vertical run seams, and he's got a great ability to find those.
Matt, I know in the past you've talked about your respect for Kirk Ferentz. Do you see any similarities between the two of you, or anything that he does that you would like to emulate, or anything like that?
Well, I think the biggest thing, just from perspective of, sustained success. And, I think one of the things that you look at their team, they know how to win games. They know who they are. They understand their identity. And the ability to sustain success over a long period. It's hard to win in college football. I think we all know that. And to be able to win over an extended period of time and sustain success, there's a sincere respect factor for any coach that's got the ability to do that and do it over such a long period of time. So I would say those are the biggest things from a respect factor in terms of, looking at their program from the outside.
You talked a little bit about that 90% of liking what you saw from the run game, but how imperative is it this week to get more out of that unit and that faction of the game, especially with Iowa's DBs and especially the presence they have in the passing game?
Yeah, I think if you know us, we always want to run the football, and did we run as efficiently as we wanted to last Saturday? We didn't. Can we be better? Yes. And must we be better? Yes. So I think those are all areas for us that we will continue to work on and continue to get ourselves into a position to be the best we can be. I think the great thing about what we do offensively is we're always going to adjust, whether it's in game or game to game, to put ourselves in the best position to win the football game. And, I think even had to change our mindset, somewhere around the third quarter last week of saying, man, how are we going to win this football game? And, I think that's where having a veteran staff on both sides of the ball take the ego out of it and figure out how to win games. And we'll have to do the same thing this coming Saturday.
Coach, two-part question. Obviously, this game being played on 9/11. Do you remember where you were at or what was going on in your life around that time on that day? And do you know if there's any personal significance, whether it's with you or coaching staff or any players for that day?
Yeah, Randy asked that question last week, and I thought a really good question, and instantly my mind went back. I was actually my junior year at Mount Union. It was a Tuesday, and we watched film. There was about an hour and a half block at Mount Union where there was was a study period during the day. And we had a defensive film session that day. I was in our defensive coordinator's office. And I say this because I related this a little bit in not the same way, but a similar way last year as COVID existed. I think for the first time in my life, it was where I felt the freedom that I probably took for granted in our country. It felt challenged, and I think there was such a you're at a unique time. You're in college, you're a junior, and there's a lot of emotion for the first time of what are you about, what do you stand for, and you watched our country respond and rally. But I think that was a powerful time in my life, and that experience was powerful. And luckily, we had a great head coach that I think guided us through it. We actually played that Saturday, and I know a lot of teams did not. But I think from my end, it was really a growth time in my life to who I wanted to become and what I wanted to stand for. And so personal significance is the second part of your question. I don't know that with our staff. Those are things that we have talked about, but certainly I don't think that there's something personal in terms of anybody involved with that.
To piggyback on the running game question, I think both you and Brees after the game said you felt like he probably left some plays or yards out there. What showed up on film of where that happened?
Yeah, I think Brees was a little bit dinged up at the tail end of fall camp. I really thought he was as great as I've seen him early on. And, I think you just felt like he was a hair off on a couple plays, and now to Brees's credit, there's a couple other plays that some of the other guys are a hair off. So it's not just on Brees Hall by any stretch of the imagination. So, I think and then there's some runs Brees Hall makes in that game that are big runs. So, I just think it's a collection of everything kind of getting in sync as we continue forward. And that's something that I think between game one and game two will be really critical for us, as that question was asked earlier, of, sustaining success in the running game.
What's Charlie mean for Brock?
Yeah,
Not just your offense, but for Brock.
Yeah, I think obviously those two have a great relationship. I would say bigger than that, and again, this is where I was really proud of Brock. I thought his performance last Saturday was outstanding. There was never a panic. When he needed to make a big play for us, he made a big play. And I thought he really managed, the football game in a tremendous way to make sure that we had an opportunity to win the football game. And, I think when you flip back, and I say that, Randy, because you flip back to last year in the Louisiana game, and I think it was huge that Charlie wasn't in the game. There was a lack of explosion in our offense. There was a lack of explosive plays. And, to be able to get some real positive things happen in the passing game last week and then get Charlie back, I think that's big for our offense. But like you said, I definitely think that unity that Charlie and Brock have is really big.
4th and inside the 5 late in the game. I don't know how many minutes ago, late in the game. If Kohler was out there, Kohler, Chase, Jared, whoever, but particularly Kohler and Chase, would you have gone for it?
No, and
Okay.
here's why. We're playing such great defense in that situation. If they make a big play and now they got to score a touchdown to win the game, and again, different setting, different game, different style of game, maybe you do go for it, and you saw us from 2 years ago, we're in the same situation against Kansas, and we go for it, and you put the game away, but the flow of that game was completely different. So, I think every game's different, every situation's different, but at least back to that situation, I would have definitely done that again.
I remember when you hired John Heacock at Toledo.
Yeah.
And I don't know if anybody at that time thought Matt Campbell just hired one of the best defensive coordinators in the country, and that's not to knock John.
Yeah.
But when you hired him back then, what did you think you were getting? And, I guess what did you end up getting that maybe was even better than what you got?
Well, I think the biggest thing, Ralph, from my end was, man, when I got the head coaching job, and you got to remember, I'm still 40, I'm 41, so I don't have all the answers. All right, I'm the first one to admit it. And at 32, 33 years old, I was our second year at Toledo. I certainly didn't have all the answers. And, I think one of the things that was really important for me with Coach Heacock is, number one, there was a relationship there prior to. Coach Heacock was at Youngstown State. When I was a player, certainly had a relationship with him coming out of high school. When I left the University of Pittsburgh, had a relationship with him. There's close family friends with the Heacock family and our family. And then, you fast forward, I remember being an assistant in Toledo, and Coach Heacock just got let go at Youngstown State, and he's up at Ohio State kind of helping his brother out for a year. And, man, we had a great conversation for about an hour, and I'm like, geez, this is one of the best football coaches that I know. And I think there was some reality to the coaching profession for me at that time is, man, this guy that was National Coach of the Year and all these great things, and now he's out of a job. And it was like, whew, I think it was a lot for me to think about. But when I got the opportunity to be a head coach, I really tried to get Coach Heacock initially. He was at Kent, and Darryl, they were really close, and it just timing wasn't right, and his loyalty and what he's about, it didn't fit. But you fast forward the second time around, and Tom Matukowicz left. He went in to be a head football coach, and it opened up the defensive coordinator position. It was the first phone call I made, and I just, for me, it's his leadership, what he stood for, what he was about. He'd been a head football coach, and I think to have somebody to bounce those ideas of, man, what do you think? Is this the right decision? Not only, man, what are we doing defensively? And, you think about what we've been through now for the last 7 years. You were a quarters man team at Toledo, and then you come here, and, you got to try to figure out how the heck are you going to play defense. And, I think he and I have both evolved a lot together, and that's been a great journey. And he's certainly been huge for me in terms of the head coach perspective of things and being a balancing act. And then obviously from a defensive standpoint, man, it's been really fun to work together.
Building off that a little bit, what has allowed your team to be so good in the second half defensively? I think Mike Green tweeted out a stat that you guys have allowed 13 points in the second half over the last 6 games. What allows you guys to adjust and be so good in that second half?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is the ability to make adjustments, and great defenses know how they have the ability to make the right adjustments to put themselves in position to stop maybe whatever's going on. And, that's part of football. Offenses are really good today. They're going to have a plan. What's that plan? And then how do you make the adjustments to put yourself in a position to be successful? And again, that's where having not just Coach Heacock, but, man, you have Tyson Veit, you got Eli Rashid, you got Matt Capone. To be able to have that continuity and consistency and to be able to communicate within a football game, know where the areas and the issues lie, and then be able to come up with the answer, that's been incredible, and they do a tremendous job. I think the communication on that side of the ball is outstanding.
When Randy asked you about Kolar, you kind of drew a line between him and the lack of explosive plays against Louisiana. What is his effect on that, whether it's him catching the ball or just tilting a defense in a different way that opens things up for other people?
Yeah, at least a year ago early in the season, it was certainly that. There was really no Breece Hall at that time. There was, no Xavier Hutchinson at that time. For the early part of the season, there was Charlie Kolar. And so I think he drew a huge amount of that scope of what was going on and how were people going to try to stop you. And, that's what makes same thing I said about the defensive standpoint. It's what makes it really unique about what we do offensively, because, man, what you see on the videotape most times is you're preparing isn't what you see on Saturday. And so your ability to adapt and adjust within the football game, it's really big. And Charlie's certainly a key piece of that, because you know, at some point, whether it's third down, whether it's first down, people are going to be aware of where he's at.
Any other questions for Coach?
Matt, how has your comfort level as a head coach in close games evolved over time?
Well, coming from Mount Union, I'll be really honest with you. It's taken a lot, but I feel like this. I said this on the radio show last night. My wife chuckled on Saturday. She's like, "Man, is this ever gonna?" I said no before it even got out of her mouth. So it just, it's the style we play at times. It's what we do. But I'll be honest with you. I think not only myself, I think our kids have really understood that, man, there's a style we play here. There's going to be times where games are going to be critical in the fourth quarter, and man, it's how you respond. Football's it's a game of imperfect things, and your ability to adapt to those and keep your poise is huge. And that was one thing I was really proud of our football team. I think our team never flinched or lost their poise on Saturday, which was awesome.
Just a quick follow-up before going there. How much did Coach Haycock, as a guy who'd been through everything, once he joined your staff, help you in that aspect and just reaching the calm that we see from you a lot now?
Oh, I think a lot. I've matured a lot, and he's been a huge piece of that. And, I think sometimes you're the young guy and you got a lot of energy, you got a lot of, and sometimes you're putting your time and effort into things that maybe on the grand scheme of things really doesn't matter. And, if you say my evolution of trying to find out, like, man, what's really important, and then sinking your teeth into that. And, I think Coach Haycock, having veteranness to some of those issues, has certainly been a great guidepost for me.
Another question about Coach Haycock. Last night on the Ole Miss Louisville game, Kirk Herbstreit was talking about DJ Durkin coming to work with Coach Haycock. Has it been, I don't know, surprising if would be the best word, but to see Iowa State kind of become this epicenter of the evolution of defense in college football, where teams come and seek you guys out to learn more about how you defend?
Yeah, I think it's like anything. I think when in our, yes, it's new, it's different, and different a lot of times creates people of being in wonderment of what's going on and how are you applying it. And I would still say what we're doing is not so unique. How we're doing what we're doing is what, in my mind, is really impressive. When you watch that videotape and there's 11 guys running to the football on every play, that's still what defense is about. You can line up 4 guys, you can line up 5 guys, 6 guys, but it's 11 guys believing in what their job and responsibility is and then running to the football after it's snapped. I still think that's what's important. And so, yes, I think we as coaches are always so, enamored by scheme. And yet scheme, I think, is one of those things that it is great. People come and want to talk it. But I think a lot of times they miss the point. It's not the scheme. It's the how. And I think those are the things that's really allowed us to be successful on defense.
Matt, this is Spencer Petrus's first game in a hostile environment, first game against you guys. What do you do up front, linebacking core and on the line, to maybe give him some weird looks, different looks?
Yeah, again, I think that's he provides a great challenge because very similar to, in my opinion, some of the great quarterbacks we've seen from them. He's big, he's strong. He's got the ability to make all the throws, in my opinion, and there's a really good athleticism about him. So, I think just when you think you want to do this, I think the awareness has to be, it's got to be disciplined defense. It still has to be, because he's so athletic. He has these abilities to make all the throws that he can put you in compromising positions. So I think equally of how do you affect him, how do you not let him beat you the entire game, and I think that'll be really big from our end.
Matt, have you noticed any Iowa-specific players on your team that have an extra level of pride or whatever this week?
No, I just said on the radio show, last night, and I do think this will be the first time that I really felt like we've gone into this game, and there's a good chunk of our roster. There's guys that are playing in our 2 deep that are from this state. And, you know, we've had to work really hard to reshape that and to get that. But I think, again, like I said earlier, yes, there is an extra meaning to this game. That's what makes it special, man. It's a rivalry game. It's special to be a part of that. And when you have young men from the state that have grown up and watched this game and been to this game, I do think they understand and they have great awareness of the meaning behind this football game. So, you know, I think that's really how I feel about that.
All right, Coach, thank you.
All right, guys, thank you.